and pray.
The spirit, told me today that I'll see a man in this family.
He said his wife is dead?
Yes, she was sick.
Hey, what sickness? Aite, it is your mother that will get leukemia and die. It is your mother.
I don't like what you are doing at all.
Hey, you want to fight?
Showing every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. with repeats on Friday at 10 p.m., Saturday at 6 p.m. and Sunday at 12:30 p.m. The Hairdressers is sponsored by Ebony Condoms,
and welcome to another Thursday, and of course welcome to What the Papers Are Saying, where we bring you the top stories that media outlets across the country carried. Now when I come back, I'll give you an idea of some of the big stories for the week. Don't go away, do stay with us. Of course, some four key things made headlines this week. The first to do with the Galamsey issue coming back on our discussions as media outlets because of some developments around the Etiwa forest. And of course, the debt exchange program still continues to make airwaves on most media outlets in the country. And then Boku keeps coming up again and again. And another issue that has started brewing has to do with the MPP over when it intends to choose a date for its elections to do with the presidential candidates, among other things. So these are the big issues that have been the subject of discussions around or on media outlets across the country. So let's see how some of the media outlets reported these stories for the week. Let's start with the Galamsey issue and start with the Ghanaian publisher. Their story says Forestry Commission military turn attention on Etiwa. Graphic Online says Forestry Commission discovers illegal mining operation outside Etiwa Forest Reserve. Now, the Ghana News Agency says Forestry Commission demobilizes illegal mining equipment. Now, to City Newsroom, they say police on manhunt for Galamseyers who unlawfully operated in Etiwa Forest Reserve. And then finally on that story, Ken Ashibe blames Forestry Commission boss for Etiwa Forest evasion. So these are the stories around the Galamsey issue. Specifically, a story has to do with some illegal miners operating in the Etiwa Forest, which is supposed to be a reserve area. Okay, so the Boku conflict is also making airwaves this week. Yesterday, the military has released a statement over allegations that it was involved in the killing of some civilians over there. And of course, earlier today, the RECSEC met over those allegations, among others, and have started investigations on that. So let's see how that story has been covered this week. The Ghana News Agency, for example, says 10 reportedly killed at Boku. Residents accused the military. Then Modern Ghana says Boku, 8 persons allegedly chased and shot dead by soldiers, 1 burnt. Let's take you to the City Newsroom. It says GAF denies killing 7 innocent people in Boku. Still with the City Newsroom, CDS to deploy armored vehicles to troubled Boku. And of course, the Member of Parliament there says, Ayariga accuses military of killing 7 civilians in Boku. Remember, he released a statement earlier this week accusing the military of killing some civilians. So that story was also captured by a lot of media outlets. Now, the domestic debt exchange is still also in the discussions. Some key developments this week with the Finance Ministry releasing a number of statements on the latest to do with that. So, Daily Graphic says domestic debt exchange program, individual bondholders get revised offer, deadline extended. Ghanaian Times says domestic debt exchange program deadline extended to February 7 with new offer to encourage individual bondholders to sign up. Business Finder, DDEP will hold the government to its promise to exempt all pension funds. Organized labor speaking there. Republic Press says DDEP deadline is February 7th. The Finder says DDEP offers improved terms to individuals and those retiring this year, while deadline is extended to February 7. Now let's come to City Newsroom. It says debt exchange will weaken domestic private banks. Ayariga writes to the Bank of Ghana governor. Still with City Newsroom, it says exemption of pension funds from debt exchange must stand. That's Closak speaking. And then the NDC joins the fray. It says you can't indirectly impose draconian debt exchange on Ghanaians. They organized a press conference this week and made some statements around that. And of course, the individual bondholders still in the fray. Senor Hosi, he's been speaking. According to the City Newsroom, the story captured around him, he said debt exchange program won't limit tradability of old bonds. So let's wrap up with another story developing this week. This evening, there was a meeting by the neck of the MPP over the dates for the presidential and parliamentary primaries. So let's see what we have there. City Newsroom says MPP's neck meeting over dates for primaries ends in deadlock. Also, the Daybreak says Jubilee House fights national executives over calls for early Congress. And then the new publisher says MPP consults, quote, wise old lady, and quote, move steering committee and neck meetings to February 2nd. And finally, the custodian says MPP sets February 2 for crucial meetings. That meeting has been held today, and of course, it's been decided that further consultations should be done over the dates. So a date is fixed and announced. Okay, let's come back to the studio. Let me introduce the two gentlemen that will further help us understand some of these stories and bring different perspectives to the developments around these key stories. I have with me Samuel Atamensa with City FM and City TV. Mr. Atamensa, welcome.
Thank you.
And then, of course, I have Richard Sky also here with us at City FM and City TV. Richard, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome, gentlemen, again. And I think we should start with Galamsey because we started the Galamsey fight, really. I'm sure at the time we started, which of course was championed by you, Samuel Atamensa, you had in mind how you wanted it to pan out in terms of, wanting the issues, the destruction of our environment, our water bodies and all that, for us to get to a point that will stop and the right thing be done. Now, over the period, the latest we got to with the Galamsey fight was the fact that excavators that come into the country will be tracked. They are supposed to be registered, and excavators that are moving to places that they are not supposed to move will be able to tell, stop it, and take action on that. We know that the Etiwa forest is a place that we are not supposed to be mining in terms of illegal mining. But the story that came out this week shows that that is not the case. If you allow me to quickly read the story that we published here at City FM and City TV on the story, to do with Ken Ashibe blaming the Forestry Commission boss for the Etiwa forest invasion. It says the convener for the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining, Dr. Ken Ashibe, has blamed the chief executive of the Forestry Commission for the recent invasion of the Etiwa Forest Reserve by illegal miners. Now, some unknown persons on Monday invaded the forest with excavators and other mining equipment, despite the government's ban on mining in forest reserves. Now, even though the commission swiftly moved in to set ablaze the excavators and the mining equipment, it was unable to make any arrests. Now, speaking to City News on the development, Dr. Ken Ashibe attributed the invasion to the lack of supervision by the Forestry Commission. That is that you know, the right place to push the issue? I mean, the Forestry Commission is telling us that when the excavators moved into the forest, nobody noticed it. They started the mining, and then they were able to seize excavators, and of course, nobody was apprehended in the process.
Well, it's not clear what Ken Ashibe actually, the details available to him, which would allow him to, if like, accuse no less a person than is it Alote?
Yes, Alote.
Alote himself. You know, I won't take that angle because I'm quite familiar with the work of the forestry guys, and I mean, they hold guns, and those guns cannot even kill a rat.
So what's the point then?
I mean, it's something that the military has attempted and has not succeeded, and you expect forestry to be able to succeed? If the military's approach, as we all know publicly, has not yielded the desired results, you expect the forestry person to be able to deal with it? No. I mean, I would have been disappointed if, upon getting information about what was going on in the forest, the forestry guys looked on unconcerned. But we are told that they went in there, and in the process, they managed to burn the excavators. Truth is, these guys, they are bent on doing the galamsey. And a lot of them are very well connected in the communities. You understand? So even the routes that they will use to escape, you have no clue.
But the Forestry Commission officers are also really in the communities, no?
But they are posted
for
from different places. They are posted from different places. And the fact that you're a Forestry Commission officer doesn't mean that you have a Google map that takes you everywhere in the forest.
Yeah.
I mean, these are guys who are bent on doing what they are doing. And all I'm trying to say is that the resources of the Forestry Commission alone cannot fight this galamsey. Yeah. Their resources. And the point is, the police is trying, the military is trying, and we still haven't come to the end of it. So I think that, yes, something may have gone wrong, but I'll put the blame past the Forestry Commission. I want to look at the national strategy for fighting galamsey as a whole, because Etiwa Forest is very critical to our survival. Yeah. And if it's left to rot with galamsey, we are in trouble. We are in big trouble.
So how do we attack this issue, especially with the Etiwa Forest, where people got in there, started mining, and then we now have
a huge forest. You see, Etiwa Forest is a huge forest.
Because we got drones, we've got trackers that are supposed to be on excavators. Every excavator is supposed to have been registered. So how did the drones thing, and we've come to say as a government that Etiwa Forest won't allow that to happen, yet it's happening.
Well, so I'm just saying again that once they were found out, they burnt the excavators. You understand? That's the first port of call. The next thing would now to be able to arrest those in charge. But arresting the people is beyond forestry. This is my thinking. Yeah. Now, the police should do it, the military should do it. Because the forestry, as it is now, they don't have the resources to go chasing people in the forest. They can just shout so that he run away. But these people, they are now. These guys have more sophisticated weapons than even the forestry people.
Okay. It's like,
well, you see, I would tackle it from the apparent lack of synergy and how the institutions of state are dealing with this whole Galamsey thing. Because I remember when we started this campaign, sometime in 2016, 17, when it was at its height. Because previously it had formed part of the campaign for the 2016 elections. And the question was, how do you deal with it? So upon the coming into office of the NPP administration, we took it upon ourselves to lead a campaign against it.
yeah.
The expectation was that you would have a natural flow of, response from the various institutions in the chain. The Minerals Commission is there. You also have the ministry responsible for mines.
Yeah.
And lands and natural resources. Then you also have, the police service, the military, and then also you have the prosecution institutions, including the judiciary, which is the arbiter on all of these matters. But it would seem that in terms of prosecuting people, we're not seeing so much action in that space. The kinds of response that you would ordinarily expect from a government to deal with the problem, arresting people, prosecuting them within, reasonable time, with reasonable dispatch, so that the guys are committed to jail. Beyond that, the assets that they have acquired, the proceeds of their criminal activity, you would expect that the government will go after these assets. So if you have built a story building as a result of, Galamsey, you should expect that the government should be able to trace, or the institutions of state should be able to trace into these properties and recover them for the state. But it would seem that we have either not developed the capacity to deal with that, or that we just are unwilling to deal with the problem, because
So
we
in
went back
either
to
way,
Parliament to ask for more powers to deal with the problem. Parliament had to amend our laws to fortify, the state with additional powers to deal with the problem. But here we are, we have still not been able to respond to the problem. So it would seem that the apparent lack of, kahunas on the part of the institutions of state to prosecute and deal with people decisively.
Why are we struggling to do that? Well, we've had a case, Aisha one, in court now, which is the most prominent one we've seen happen, on this Galamsey, matter. We see people arrested, let go, and all that. Why are we struggling to get people to pay for the wrong they're doing and to serve as a deterrent?
You see, it would seem that a lot of the folks involved have friends in high places, because you hear a lot of party chiefs, cronies of the government allegedly involved in this particular space, and nobody would deny that there are folks who are deeply involved, who are said to be financiers of what do you call it?
Political parties.
The political parties in our country. The NDC was there. They had their own supporters in the Galamsey enclaves. The NPP, is here now, and they also have their supporters. So when you have people with so much influence within the space, and they are engaging in absolute criminality, and they are oiling the various political parties, it makes it difficult to lead a campaign in the courts to prosecute successfully. Again, they have so much money to throw at, persons doing the investigations. So in some cases, some of the DCs will tell you that when a DISEC meeting is held, okay, we are moving into this particular area tomorrow.
By
the time they finish the meeting, the information
they start getting calls.
Yeah.
Oh, namasa,
So guys, doesn't that mean, presuppose that we're fighting a cause that we're not going to get anywhere realistically, with the reality on the ground and what we know?
We cannot give up, because our water bodies are at stake, our life is therefore at stake, our food production baskets are at stake because they are destroying farmlands. Cocoa production has taken a major hit We are struggling to do 1 million, metric tons a year.
And the
Well,
cocoa
Cote d'Ivoire is
board
doing in excess of 2 million.
Yeah, and the cocoa board boss just 2 days ago lamented at the PAC meeting that if we are not careful, things will get worse because the galamsey is really affecting the activities of, cocoa farmers and all that. Every institution is lamenting that, we're struggling to solve. No, but the institutions that are supposed to be in charge are struggling. We saw the president start an initiative, met with chiefs, met with regional heads, all that, but nothing's come out of it.
You see, what actually even troubles me, particularly about the Atiwa forest, was that, this is recognized internationally as a protected area. And therefore, when the government spoke about inviting the Chinese to go into that forest and mine bauxite, it became a huge matter. Of course, so we called in the Chinese to come and mine in the Tiwa forest because we needed money from them to build our country. What we did by inviting the Chinese is to send a signal that, well, the state could do it. So people who are also interested in criminal activity have also decided that they are going to get involved. I first of all think that the decision to invite the Chinese to mine in that area, which has not started yet, it's regrettable, because that forest reserve needs to be protected at all costs.
No, we need that. We need the bauxite and the money.
But must we dig up every space in Ghana in pursuit of
the next you see is that we are giving the seed to somebody to come and mine.
We've not already done it.
It cannot continue like that. So that was a regrettable decision, and it still is. Now the question is, how do you respond to the folks who are engaging in criminal? That's why I'm saying that the institutions of state, given the mandate to prosecute these guys, must be ruthless in how they deal with it. I believe the courts can set aside 2 weeks maximum to deal with these matters with dispatch. You arrest today, within 3 days you are before the courts, after you have been sent properly for bail and all these things to be, within 5 days or 1 week, prosecution is done, and the decision is made on you. The state should be tasked with the responsibility of tracing the properties that have been acquired as a result of these illegal activities, and would retrieve them. If you know about it and you even kept quiet about it, I think the law should be extended as much as dealing with people like that, because in effect you are an enemy of the state.
Yeah, but that's the point where we have to arrest people before we get them there. We are not making any arrests.
We are making some.
But no, we are not.
We are not making any. They are not
As
arrests.
for Galamsey, we are not making any arrests, though. The main people doing the Galamsey, they have been watching us and laughing. I'm telling you, but now they are laughing because they heard how much. That's what's happening. The thing has gotten worse. It's gotten worse. We've had press conferences, we have seminars, we have conferences, we have speeches, we have policies, roundtables, everything, including what we have done. And it keeps getting worse. I mean, the way it's hurting our environment is something that we all will live to regret one day. I heard the cocoa board boss was talking about how the Ankobra and the Pra rivers are just being affected. And he even said in 20 years. And I was like, which clock are you using? In 20 years? No, 20 years is too far.
Within 5 years.
In 5 years, in 5 years, we'll see the real results. Because people are bent on doing it. And I don't even see why the government has this posture of still trying to negotiate with them and advising them as if we are counseling them on how not to do Galamsey. You want to counsel somebody not to do Galamsey? Myself and Vivian were in the Eastern region, were in the pits of the Galamsey. She was doing the reporting.
Abandoned pits.
Did they look like people who were even thinking of stopping? No, they're not thinking of stopping. You understand? So it's a war that we have lost, and we should admit that we've lost it. And losing that war is one item. The next item is that how are we going to cope with the environmental degradation that is causing consequences? Because as for water, there's no
recycle and change. And
there's nothing you
gone,
can do.
Gone.
You don't have water, you don't have water. And I don't see why we should watch this thing for it to get to this point. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all.
What do we do?
Well,
if you were in government,
if I had a mandate to do this one,
yes, what would you do to turn things round?
Well, first of all,
without fear or whatever.
First of all, is to engage the chiefs consistently, not as an event. As in whatever decision, you need to get their buy-in, because thing is that I will not be there physically at all times, but they are there. We met a chief in one of the Eastern region towns, myself and Vivian. And he said I asked for him, they should do it all. No, he told us plain that asked for they should come and do their thing. Because the government is not doing the road for them. And the Galamsey people, when they bring the money, look, we are doing the market. The Galamsey is a canon idea. So you see the mindset. If it has to be done, it has to be done well. But in the reckless manner, as we have seen some do, I think it's hurting us. And if the laws do not permit people to do it, we should apply the laws.
So you engage the chiefs first of all, not as an event.
Oh, that's one. If you don't engage the chiefs, no matter what you do, nothing will happen. And they have to be part of the solution. Of course, you'll be having some recalcitrant ones, some people who even aid and abet. But in the main, I think that the chiefs will form a very important constituency in our solution to Galamsey. And then the law. And then the law itself. Well, the law is a central tool that you are going to use, but you need the collaboration of the chiefs. No two ways about that. Okay,
we've seen chiefs in the Western North, take a position that you can't come and do this, and we've seen their areas, things changing there. So, yeah, it's what it is.
So can you imagine with this one backed by the law, so that when something happens quickly, the courts will arrange, quick. You are put behind bars. Your equipment, everything seized, bent right in front of everybody. Nobody wants to go and put his money there and then get your excavators bent. Okay. But again, we know that the companies that bring in excavators. We know the companies. The excavators. No excavator has come to this country that didn't use our own borders. As huge as they are, they can't fly like a mosquito and come here. Yeah. So we know. We should now deal with the suppliers as well, so that the geolocators of the excavators will be active, dynamic at all times. The police or the security agencies would know where each excavator is. It's possible because it's done elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's what we said we were going to do. So,
but I mean, it's the easiest thing to do. So I don't even understand.
All right, guys, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the Boku conflict as well. About 9 people killed. We're told, or the allegation is that was done by the military. The military this evening has released a statement dismissing those allegations. It was first made by the Member of Parliament, the Honorable Ayariga. We'll come back and look at that. Do stay with us.
It's City on the Go. You don't have to miss any of your favorite television and radio shows on City TV and City FM. Enjoy thrilling content from your world of great television and relevant radio at your convenience. Subscribe to CityTube on YouTube. Turn on your notification button and receive prompts on our live streaming sessions and new content uploads. For easy access to the CityTube page, scan the barcode on your screens. Subscribe to the CityTube page and voila! Unlimited content awaits you. Don't forget to subscribe to CityTube for amazing content from City TV and City FM.
Yeah, welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Evan Kai Loco. This evening I'm here with Samuel Tamens as well as Richard Sky. Just gone by, we discussed the Galamsey issue, the latest to do with the invasion of the Etiwa forest by some illegal miners. No arrest made yet, but the equipment that they were using to do the illegal mining has been destroyed by Forestry Commission as well as the task force over there. We'll move into our next issue to do with the Boku martyrs. We're told that 10 people have been killed. The Member of Parliament, Honorable Yariga, has blamed the military for those killings. Rexec says is investigating the matter. The military has come out to deny those accusations as well. So I'll quickly read one of the stories that came from the Boku area this week. This actually came this morning. This is from the GNA. It says 10 people, including a 12-year-old boy, have been reported killed in renewed clashes at Boku in the Upper East region, in which the military has been implicated. Now, 2 of the victims were reportedly shot in the evening of Tuesday, January 31st, while the 8 were killed in the morning of Wednesday. Now, residents have accused some personnel of the Ghana Armed Forces stationed at the area as perpetrators of the crime. Mr. Mahama Yariga, the Member of Parliament for Boku Central, in a statement called on the government to, as a matter of urgency, investigate the killings. He pledged to fight to ensure justice was served to the victims. Boku, will we ever close this chapter?
Boku is a very delicate terrain, and it's remained like that for so many years now. For as long as I can remember, I mean, entering journalism as a young man and virtually developing now into a full-grown man, it is disappointing that we still have the crisis there persisting. But before I proceed any further, may I use the opportunity to actually sympathize with the families that have lost loved ones as a result of the latest episode of disturbances in that particular part of our country. It is disturbing, tragic, and it's unimaginable that in this day and age you would allow crisis of this kind to take loved ones away. Some of these people are breadwinners in their families. That having been said, I think the factions involved in the disturbances there would also have to realize that because of the problems that they continue to stoke in that part of our country, Boku has virtually lost its commercial verve, because hitherto it was one of the most viable, economic centers of our country. But because of repeated episodes of clashes and problems here and there, we have undermined the economy of Boku. For so many years, that community has been under curfew from government to government.
Since I started journalism,
exactly.
There's always a curfew.
So, we have actually destroyed the economy of that area as a result of the lack of commitment to resolve the problem. The people of Dagbon, for so long a time, had a similar situation. But to a large extent, with the intervention of the eminent chiefs and then also the commitment of the president of the day, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, again, previous presidents also made their efforts. But they were able to address their problems. And as we speak, the Dagbon area now enjoys a certain semblance of peace, and life there has returned to normal. How is it that our friends, our colleagues, our brothers and sisters in Boku cannot just move the peace by? And the situation is not helped by the fact that we're seeing an inflow of refugees from the northernmost part of Burkina Faso.
Or the southern part of it.
Okay, which is also facing the southern part, which is the extreme north of our country, which is facing its own internal crisis as a result of Islamic militants also terrorizing that country. So you have a mix of the right mix of, if you like, recipe appears to have been cooked for the situation there to escalate. And that is where you would expect that the opinion leaders there would have to renew their own commitment to ensuring that peace prevails. Because when people are seeking peace, when people are seeking a place to lay their heads, and where they have come to, it is also in flames, then we have a problem on our hands. And it is regrettable that people have been killed, bullets fired, and the military is being accused, and the military is also accusing the local people.
They were not civilians that did whatever happened.
It is regrettable. And on this note, I think that the president would have to listen to counsel if one is provided and appoint a special envoy or a special investigator to go into the matter, because we cannot leave the military to investigate themselves.
With regards to this particular
matter. And so we need someone who would go on a fact-finding mission. One person can do that job with the support of an independent person. Exactly, to investigate the matter, return facts, which facts we can rely on to prosecute and punish the people responsible.
But can't we, RESEC says they are going to investigate. Can't we rely on that investigation?
You see, because of the accusations directed...
It's going to be difficult to investigate the military from outside, because it's a command. So can we allow the military command to, first of all, do its investigation, and then we can put the outcome of that investigation to another test? This is my thinking, not to bypass them.
They should do this, and then...
I don't see how the military command will instruct their people to go and start shooting in a place like Boku. I just can't see that happen. Because, you see, you started by saying it's a very complicated issue. Now you talk about fact-finding, commission.
Not necessarily a commission, because the technicality of a commission is that the moment the commission is involved, you cannot prosecute. That's why I'm saying that...
No, that's not to do with the killing, the alleged killing by the military, but the general challenges that we are having in the Boku area. We've had commissions upon commissions. We've had commissions, I was part of a team years ago when this thing had come up, and I learned for the first time that Rattray, you remember Rattray, the British historian or something,
named after the Rattray,
had written about this Boku crisis in a publication in 1932.
Wow.
In 1932. Who has the right, who doesn't have the right, and why it's not too important at that time, because there are one people, occupying Boku, and Boku grew. Even under Kutua Champon, under General Kutua Champon, there was a Alassane committee on this same Boku crisis. So you see, it's not something that we just woke up one day and saw it happen. It's been there. And it's very complex because, you see, some of these families border between Ghana and Togo, and some Ghana and Burkina. So sometimes, whereas the problem seems to be finding a solution, is then fuel from
something pops in from another
random stuff. And so it's a very delicate thing. It requires the attention maybe of the head of state himself, because these are Ghanaians. They're not foreigners. These are Ghanaians. Boku people, they are Ghana people. They hold Ghana passport. Rather, they have the national ID as well. So we need to pay proper attention, maybe at the presidential level. Because if we let it go the way it's going, we'll not hear good news.
That's true.
We'll not hear good news.
It is a very important point you've made, but I was limiting myself to the killings that have happened. And because we have a blame game, it will be almost impossible to ask an institution that has been publicly accused, and which institution has come out to say, look, we didn't do this. Whatever report they will produce, people will contest it. So why not find someone who has honor, pedigree, respect around him, and tax that person, support him with all the institutions available to go into the matter, return facts with facts can found proper prosecution of the people responsible. Because look, you cannot lose 10 lives just like that, and we are not sure who did it. It is completely unacceptable. Of course, I mean, if deaths were not involved, you would have said that, okay, there are human rights violations, and so Chirac perhaps should go into investigating the alleged violations. But this is obvious criminality. People have been killed. Now, what do you do with that? We cannot let it lie down. There has got to be something done. The people responsible must be found, and the law must take its full course.
Okay, so Rexec has spoken. They tell us they're investigating. The member of parliament has also, he started the talk around the military attacking civilians this week. And then after that, Rexec came in. And then, of course, the military this afternoon also released a 2-page statement saying it wasn't the military, and these people, some of the instances, they were not necessarily civilians. Now, Mr. Mills, we now know the military, whilst this investigation is going on, they still need to deal with the people.
I mean, the military's mission there is that of peacekeeping. It's not to fight anybody.
Yeah.
It's just peacekeeping. And I think that is important, regardless of how you look at it. The presence of the military is important. And that they should abide by the rules of peacekeeping as they experience everywhere else. We just need more voices to call the attention of the government to quicken whatever they are doing. And the Ghana Bar Association, the Christian Council, the Pentecostal Council,
The National Peace Council.
National Peace Council. We want to see all these people actively involved in this Boku crisis. Because, in fact, if I'm talking about Boku crisis, the crisis is written in uppercase. It's a major, I'm telling you, it's a major issue we can't sleep over. So, all the major institutions, organizations, these people, when they call, you see them, when some foreign dignitaries are coming, there are the people they call to come and do the dinner. All those people, they should line them up. They should go and advocate for peace to prevail in Boku. I'm telling you.
All right. We'll take a quick break again. And when we come back, we'll wrap up with the MPP trying to set a date for its presidential elections, flag bearer elections. And of course, today we know that the NEC met, and it's been agreed that further consultations should be made over the matter. Part of the people want the dates to come early. Others want it to be the one clear year, as the constitution of the party says. Should that be the case, and what do we know further? We'll come back in a bit to stay with us.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
So welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kai. Look, I'm here with Samuel Thomas as well as Richard Sky. We'll conclude our discussions with the MPP. We know today the NEC met, trying to get a date for the selection of their presidential candidate for the next election. Now, the Constitution, there's a clear thing what the Constitution says on what they're supposed to do, but there's also calls for other things to be done. Richard, what does the Constitution say in terms of the election for the flag bearer, for the dates?
Well, if you look at Article 13 of the NPP Constitution, the first section says that the election of the party's presidential candidate shall be held not later than 24 months from the date of the national election. The date and venue for the election shall be decided by the National Council, provided, however, that the National Council may, on appropriate occasion, vary the date. That is the first, section. But if you go, you go further to the clause actually. When you go further to clause 4, it says that when the party is in government, the election of a presidential candidate shall be held not later than 11 months before the national general election.
Okay.
So what it is what we have at the moment.
Yeah.
You have an NPP president in office. And forgive me for using NPP president because he's the president of Ghana. But some people believe that because John Dramani Mahama, former president, is seeking re-election to office of president because he's still hugely popular around the country and because he's been widely marketed, whoever you get to elect on the MPP ticket to lead the charge for the MPP in 2024 would require a lot of rounds around the country to get the same level of exposure.
Kickstart the campaign early and all that. But that's a fair thought, isn't it?
You see, that if you look at the current circumstances, it is fair to say that. However, must you always be tweaking the party's constitution just because you see, you cannot. This is a document that you should not easily be amending left, right, and center. Because I remember in 2007 when the matter came up, there were those who even thought that, the NPP should hold the elections much earlier. A firm decision or position was taken to look, no, let's allow John Kufuor to run his government, because the moment you introduce a candidate, alliances switch, loyalties move, and what you have is two presidents in effect. Although one is actually the elected president, you also have de facto president. And then you render the president in office a lame duck president. So you cannot have that situation in the country. So leave the situation as it is. So the MPP went to, into the 2008 elections, electing a flag bearer in December of 2007. It was actually on the 23rd of December 2007 at the Legon Congress where Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was elected. Of course, when the party found itself in opposition, you had a situation where the Constitution came into play again, because in that case, the Constitution requires that you do it at least 2 years before the national elections. Again, there were demands for amendments as to make it possible for the party to elect its presidential candidate earlier. Again, the argument was we need to market, we need to resolve all the differences that will emerge, unify the party so that we can go into the elections as a party, a united force. Of course, they didn't, that didn't fly. But you see, I find, as you said, some merit in the argument because of John Dramani Mahama's, likely election as the candidate of the NDC. But the problem with that is that you cannot have a constitution which you would have to tweak left, right, and center merely because, the situation so demand. I think they have to be careful about how they do this and give some certainty to the people of the MPP that our constitution is one you cannot easily amend and do whatever you want to do with it. If the situation changes tomorrow, what do you do?
You took it again. That means your thoughts on this date, which will leave some people happy. Whatever happens, someone will be unhappy.
I think the Constitution is a good reference point in conducting the activities of these political organizations. But there are certain realities that you encounter that may require that you take a second look at the same provisions that you've made in the Constitution. I mean, the kind of situation we have with President Mahama is not a situation we have ever experienced in our political life before. So it's an exceptional case, and so if as a party it comes to the point that they think they need to take a second look at how they deal with it. I think it's okay. I say it's okay to the extent that they want to go back to their own constitution and use the tools that the party provides to try and review with a possible expectation of changing it to suit their present circumstance. If that's what they want to do, I don't see why not. Because when they were writing this constitution, nobody anticipated that you are going to deal with a candidate who was once president. Yeah. So it's an exceptional case that requires something, but they should, you see, this by itself shouldn't be what is going to divide them. That if you don't get it your way, then the other person is an enemy. Then, they should discuss it. They should try and see if they can review it.
But how do they deal with the reality of choosing a date early and having two gods at the same time?
But that's inevitable. Even if you have 1 year to do that, it's going to happen anyway.
Or shorter.
But
within a shorter.
Who says that 1 year is too short to cause damage to a sitting president? I'm just saying that it can happen even if you have 1 year. So the excuse of you have a lame duck president, how does a president become lame duck president because the party has chosen somebody else as the next candidate? I mean, the fact that you're a candidate, you chair cabinet meetings? No. You don't chair cabinet meetings. You are not a minister, but so to speak. Yeah. You understand? So I actually don't get that language of if you appoint, once you elect a candidate, then the sitting president becomes lame duck. How does that happen?
No, you see, Samens, look at it within this context. I remember clearly that in the 2008 elections, when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was elected, and the Kufuor government was taking decisions which the Nana Addo camp thought
were not happy with,
were hurting the interests of the candidate. There was massive tension as a result of that. I remember, for instance, the presidential jet that was bought. It was a big matter. It was a big fight. Yeah. Except that it did not spill out into the open because you're dealing with two mature people who were able to confront each other with here behind the scenes. Although on the floor of Parliament, you saw that people were really angry. Again, you also saw in the later stages of the administration where, for instance, prisoners, a lot of drivers were jailed because, the government decided to use a certain law which committed a lot of drivers to jail. Eventually, the government had to overturn the commitments that had, like how people were committed to jail as a result. All of these things played into the hands of the opposition, and the MPP eventually lost the election. So when people are talking about lame duck president, it is also, as a result of a clash of opinions, a clash of positions. So the person who is elected presidential candidate.
Just hold your thought.
Okay.
You see what you just described. It still happened within that space of the 1 year we are talking about. So I'm just saying that whether 1 year, whether 2 years, it can still happen.
Yeah, but if you have a shorter period to contain that, it is better than having a protracted.
No, generally speaking, but in politics, 1 year is a very long time.
That's true.
It's a very long time. So I'm just saying that they are looking at the degree of exposure that will be beneficial to whoever comes out as a candidate. And that is a function of time, no two ways about that. But as for lame duck, even if you have 6 months to go, the candidate can mess you up. This is the point I'm making.
Is it not better? 6 months?
No, I'm saying that even with 6 months, the thing, what you just described, even now, is there. The tension is there.
Yeah.
Nobody will admit it, but the tension is there. So I'm saying that if they want, for the purpose of giving them time to get the necessary recognition and exposure, then the longer the better. And maybe I may be oversimplifying it, but generally speaking, the longer the better.
Yeah, but is the better view not that you get a candidate who is already perhaps exposed? And the party people can be smart about that. Of course, Alan has been marketed by reason of his contesting in previous presidential primaries. Baumia hasn't done it before, but by reason of him having gone around the country on 3 different, elections to contest and become vice president, he's also been exposed. So it's a straight choice between Baumia and Alan. I believe that whoever eventually gets...
Are you taking out Ada anymore?
With a great, he's a good friend of mine. With the greatest respect to him. I don't see how he gets it.
So
it's a straight fight between, of course, Kennedy Japan is doing very well according to the polls, but I see it as a straight fight between
Alan and Baumia.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that if you look at it within that context, if you have a party that has performed in office, you have at least one good year. It's good enough time for you to sell a candidate. I honestly don't think that...
All things being equal, but in this situation, not all things are equal. You have a former president.
I admitted that.
That's the point. So you see, it's a significant feature that we need to deal with. You get me? So if you have a Baumia dealing with it, he's been vice president. So he also, by dint of the fact that he's been vice president, comes with a certain advantage. You understand? But when, from the get-go, when they say, let's get started, it's not just a matter of marketing, but it's communication insistence. It is a period where you need to keep pushing and insist and push your message to people. And I'm just saying that the longer, the better. The longer the better. No, I mean, just say, generally speaking, the longer the better. But if it gets too complicated, 1 year should work.
I think that they should allow the Constitution to rest. You see, certainty of the law is a good thing. You don't want to... tomorrow some new development will come, and then people have fanciful ideas. Let's amend it.
Oh, they have to amend it when new developments come. They have to amend the thing. They have to. So long as they use the appropriate forum and
channels
appropriate channels, appropriate to do their amendments according to their own constitution, I think it's fair.
You see, Samuel, therein lies the danger. The guy the president of Guinea, he used the processes of the constitution
to change it, to
change
stay forever.
You see, you can always create a justification as to tamper with the constitution. There's always an argument to be made. But you see, when you insist on certainty of the law, what you do is that you discourage all kinds of fanciful ideas as to what should happen to a living document like the Constitution. Of course, if the situations become so compelling as to insist on a change, you can always do that. But you see, I hesitate to encourage a situation where, this thing requires that we should change the position. So quickly you go and mobilize people, you change it, tomorrow something else will come. You keep changing it. You might not always have a good intention person. Someone with an evil mind.
Being who we are. Being who we are.
People have their own ideas. But thank you so much, guys. Our time is up. I have to end the show. Thank you very much, Samuel Mensa. And thank you very much, Richard Sky, guys, for coming. And thank you so much for watching us, our viewers. My name is Vivian Kai. Local return next week, Thursday. Have a great one. Bye.